Hi everyone.
Hi guys.
It's lovely to see you again. And today is just a very casual sort of day, isn't it? We're just chatting about some fairly light-hearted perfumes that we've stumbled across. Yeah, no. Well, I'm kidding. I'm being silly. This is, as you'll see in the title, this is the mighty Areej Le Doré, and we're talking about one of the real giants in the discoveries we've made in the last few years, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, we were saying just before we started recording, it's almost difficult to be objective about this house. I mean, several Areej Le Doré fragrances, but particularly the first Ottoman Empire. You know, when I bought it and when we smelt it, it kind of blew my mind and opened, I think, both of us up to this whole other world of perfume, which we'd not experienced anything. You know, when we've been into department stores and smelt, you know, even things like Roger Dove, and thinking that was luxury, and then we smelt Areej Le Doré and we're like, wow.
Yeah. It puts the sort of so-called niche perfume into perspective, doesn't it? And you think there's a whole other world out there. I guess it's like anything that has lots of rabbit holes.
Yeah. You
go down them and you think, okay, now this is next level.
Yeah.
But this stuff actually really is next level, isn't it?
And also then to just, you know, follow Roshan Adam. It feels like we've been on this journey for years. It's only it's only a couple of years. It's a couple of years.
But he's prolific and sort of always interesting and always pushing the boat out.
And also he's more and more he's putting on Instagram and online on YouTube videos explaining what he's doing and the materials he's used to it. And he's someone that's obviously obsessed with materials, and he's also obsessed with vintage fragrances and vintage materials as well, as something which has started to crop up increasingly.
Yeah, like these thousands of year old amber or whatever it might be. You know, it's interesting. It kind of tells you that you can have some real perfectionism in what you source and what you seek out. And
I mean, I'm lucky enough that I own something from every collection so far from my little old bottle of Ottoman Empire here, the first one.
Was that the first you had?
That's the first. It wasn't actually the first. The first one I bought was Inverno Rosso, and then and I managed to get this bottle. So right up until this newest collection here, which is Russian Musk II.
Very cool.
Also, so today we're going to talk about Russian Musk II, and we're also going to talk about Ottoman Empire 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. So we've got
some comparisons.
We bought some. These are decants of Ottoman Empire 3, and Joe also has a bottle himself of Ottoman Empire 2.
That's number 2. So we're going to do a little side by side
comparison, and it's been amazing to see the kind of the evolution of this brand. I mean, the presentation has improved, and as I'll show you in a minute, the sprayer on these recent releases is they're second to none. They're like the old Creed sprayers when you can really control them from a little squirt to a big mess. They're really amazing. The kind of service and distribution has improved, so you can now, you know, if you're in the UK and you order one, it's distributed from the UK, so you're paying really small amounts for shipping, and it arrives reasonably quickly. He's also put a lot of money into this, obviously kind of a social media team online on Instagram. So there's much more money going into the company, but yet he's managed to keep the prices reasonable and keep the prices down.
Yeah, it's very impressive, isn't it?
You've got, I mean, Ensau charging $1,500. That's $1,500 for a 30 mil.
Wow.
You know, by comparison, $350 for a 50 mil X-ray.
Yeah, I mean, there's no comparison there.
And so and yet with all this, all the bottles, they sell out straight.
Yeah. I mean, 5 seconds. And
5 seconds. Really. So he did pre-release this collection. You could buy all 3, and then a couple of weeks later, the individual bottles went on sale. But Ottoman Empire 3 sold out in 4 minutes.
Wow.
And with that kind of demand, you kind of think that you could be selling anything. You could almost be putting anything in that if it sells out that quickly. So he's been able to do all these great things: better packaging, social media, better delivery, and yet not raising the prices. So, I mean, has anything been compromised?
It would be interesting to see. I think I certainly wouldn't necessarily expect it to have been, but let's explore. You know better than I do with having smelled these already.
We're going to start, I think, with Russian musk. So I can show you a bit of the display. So here we are in these boxes. He's kind of ditched the. He used to do these kind of velvet-lined boxes, but now it's just embedded in this cushion.
It's very smart, isn't it?
These kind of Remy Martin little brandy kind of.
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
You can actually see I've made a bit of a dent on this. I should say this bottle. I bought it before just before the individual bottles went on sale. But by that stage, this bottle was already third hand. So somebody had bought the complete set of 3 fragrances, not like this. They'd sold it to somebody else who bought it, tried it, they didn't like it, and then I bought it.
Wow. So, I mean, this is sort of prized stuff, but also at the same time, people are sort of sending it around and it's dividing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's dividing even Areej fans, I would
absolutely.
say.
I mean, because there's also this problem of these fragrances being sold for silly money, and people buy multiple bottles.
Yeah.
And they have, he definitely has tried to stop that. But still, the only way to try them is to buy them straight away and blind buy them, which I did. So let's talk about it. Obviously,
I'm very excited to try.
I have worn this quite a lot. I would say I've had about 10 wearings out of this to try and make up my mind. The other thing we thought is a lot of, in our previous videos, you've seen a lot of first impressions or quick initial thoughts about Areej. So this is one where we spent a little bit more time. We just didn't want to rush things.
Yeah.
I think it's also it's easy to get swept up.
You can get sort of into the hype mode, can't you, a little bit with these things.
So here we are.
Like you want to like them so much that you force yourself to love them. I'm not saying that's what we've done, but it's easily done. It is easily done.
Russian Musk II, right.
That is a very, very good atomizer. That makes you immediately think that all other perfume atomizers are utter shite.
I know, why doesn't everyone do that? I mean, it's absolutely...
And it changes the performance of the perfume.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to smell the card.
I'm liking what I'm smelling so far.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't one that I smelled originally.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, really good.
it is a beautiful fragrance. So I didn't smell the original.
Beautiful, effervescent sort of opening this.
In a way, it's quite... there's a kind of a slightly animalic twang from the start, but this is not the darkness we expect from Areej necessarily.
Beautiful, heavy, oily citrus.
Yeah.
With like little wisps of smoke already starting to dance around it.
But for me, from the first spray that as you would expect from this, what you get is that warm, cuddly, very honeyed.
Yeah, honeyed, absolutely.
Yeah. It almost
unmistakable Areej, I would say. I mean,
you would have said. I mean, I don't think there is. It hasn't notes, but it almost feels like there's honey in this, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, 100% to me.
I mean, you are transported to a forest. It's not
a little sweetness going on there.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, of course, with a musk, you'd expect,
but it's not. It's different. Siberian musk really had the sense that you were in the woods and you were kind of. Everything was vivid and in your face. This feels a bit more mellow. It's not like spring in a forest, but it's somehow things are more mellow.
It's a very contented sort of smell.
Yeah,
it feels very like I'm here. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I've got this.
I mean, so one thing I should say about this is, unlike most Areej fragrances, and I this is something I had read of the original Russian musk, that this is not a big fragrance necessarily, and that's not bad at all. But in terms of both projection and longevity, this is not a big fragrance at all. I did find within about 20 minutes it sits very closely, and you can see I've got through quite a lot of the bottle. I did spray quite a lot, but it does sit quite close and doesn't last a huge amount of time.
I mean, this is the kind of fragrance, though, for someone to come close to you and get it that way. I think it almost needs to be smelt at source.
Yep.
With body temperature and everything else going on behind it.
I'm
not sure I would want this to project something.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
It's an inviting. And the other thing, I don't know how you feel, but this feels incredibly nostalgic. I really feel this is absolute classic sheepra.
There's big vintage vibes going on here.
Massively.
Big sort of time travel for me.
With just that extra bit of musk. That real musk, which is really handled beautifully.
Yeah. It's very elegant, isn't it?
It's elegant and it's warm and it's inviting.
I'm getting whiffs of some sandalwood. I don't know if there is any in there, but
maybe a little bit.
Slightly
there's
bitter edged.
There's a very, very gentle oud to this, I think. Maybe some sandalwood as well. There's
whatever oud is there, it's very lean.
Yeah.
It's sort of very lean and running right through the centre. It's not sort of fat and weighty in any way.
No. I mean, this is not an oud-centric or even a heavily woody fragrance at all. This is much more about, light woods and kind of hints of florals. Kind of there's a neroli.
I think that's really beautiful.
It is really beautiful.
It's very delicate, and it's not the first thing that I would necessarily imagine when I think Russian musk, Areej, that's something that might be sort of hugely animalic and like a filth bomb.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this isn't.
This is definitely not dirty. This is not dirty. It's not a big fragrance. Now, I was saying to Joe at the moment, I bought this bottle third hand. I feel I probably will sell this fragrance. I think for this price, I don't feel moved by it. And then that's not to say fragrances have to be big or wow. I mean, in our last fragrance recent one, we talked about Pomare Stolen Perfume, which is an all-natural house.
Fantastic
where none of the performance is big, but there's lots of wow to the fragrances. And even some of the Bortnikov fragrances, they're not big in performance, but they've got wow. The first spray you think, oh.
Yeah.
It's difficult to pin down, and it's not necessarily a question of notes, but I feel this lacks wow. The presentation's better, the spray is great.
Yeah, but you know what it is, mate? I think that's your instinctive reaction to this perfume, and I don't think it necessarily says anything about the perfume itself. It's just that it's a house that you have very strong instinctive reactions to, because they're so full of personality. And this one just doesn't hit that spot, and why should it?
Yeah.
Why? But I mean, why should you?
Yeah.
Why should you try and make yourself like it? You shouldn't have to.
I think that's the thing. If it was, this is basically quite a classic chypre with a fair bit of musk without being overtly animalic, and within that category, immediately I think of other chypres, by Ensemble Chypre by Sultan Pasha. There's several chypres by Thierry Whitehall. There's some chypres by Diane St. Clair, which move me more and have more wow factor. That's not to say they are necessarily bigger or louder. Not at all. I don't know. This just doesn't do it.
Yeah,
for me.
But I can see what you mean. I think it's like a beautifully composed thing of its type. But is that necessarily something that arouses anything of passion in you? I mean, in a way, it's such a perfect example of what it's trying to do that I could take a little bit more rough around the edges. Maybe I know that sounds really silly, but I want something in there that makes me that's a little bit different.
I mean, even I don't know if you.
I do love it. I do.
Even
on
card, it's retreating quite a lot. And again, I don't want to feel that we're obsessed with performance, because if you watch our channel, we rarely talk about performance. But if something is going to be so understated in terms of performance, I do expect something else about it, and I don't feel I get it. I just get a very nice, well put together, smooth, vintage inclined.
It sort of hits the spots. I mean, to be honest, for something like this, if it's not going to be a big performer or a big projector, you at least want to be addicted to the smell of your own arm. You want to be glued to your own self all day, don't you? And smelling it and going, oh, it's developing, it's doing whatever it's doing. And if you're going to go back and go, oh yeah, that's what I expected, then that's not going to elicit the passion.
So that's Russia Musk II. So let's go back to something which does elicit the passion.
Yeah.
Ottoman Empire I. I mean, oh God, we talked.
I've not smelled this since.
We've talked
how long?
So much about this, and I remember the first time you smelt it was when we were going to Rome.
In Rome, yeah.
We went to Rome on a perfume holiday, and this is what I wore at the airport. And I remember Joe saying I could smell you from 20 meters away. And
it really was like a game changer for me.
I tell you what, let's not start with that. Let's start with Ottoman Empire III.
Yeah, let's work backwards.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. So
there you go.
Let's give it a little spritz. We'll do it in
So
that direction.
I have worn this decant 5 or 6 times. I've had quite a lot of wearing of this, so I can compare it with the original. You definitely.
It still elicits that.
You still thing, definitely get that relation to Ottoman Empire I, and that same kind of wow and excitement, but it's much more rose centric.
Yeah, it's much more rose-centric. It's much more effervescent. It's much brighter to me.
Yeah,
it's a lot more playful. I don't feel it's not quite got that brooding danger that the first one had. To my memory,
there's more of that kind of there's a kind of darkness, almost a kind of a birchy, leathery richness to the opening, but just not quite as much as the original Ottoman Empire. I don't think.
I love the rose direction that takes.
It feels interestingly. I never thought of the original. I know the original was a rose oud, but I never thought of it.
I never did. No.
Because there was so much more. Whereas this feels much more rose centric. In a way, the rose feels more real. Whatever the hell that means. But do you know? You get this multifaceted rosiness. Fresher.
It feels just a lot brighter and a lot more like there's some stuff going on in the background. But like right in the centre, in the foreground, is this rose, and it's almost like it's a rose with lots of bicarb of soda fizzling and bubbling.
Yeah, I definitely get the kind of fizziness. Well, already you're starting to get.
Unmistakable though.
It's not darkness which accompanies the rose, but initially I feel there's bright spice of black pepper and nutmeg.
Yeah.
Which is
absolutely
tying in what you were saying about the kind of the kind of fizziness, the energeticness.
Very bracing.
It's kind of bright and illuminated. And I found this even more so on skin. I definitely thought of a spring rose.
Yeah.
I think kind of wet with dew.
Yeah.
As opposed to the original one, which I thought heavy in the middle of summer, petals on a bed.
That was a lot more of a dark sort of autumnal thing for me.
I mean, you get. There's a suggestion of spice here, but it's more of a bright spice as opposed to a dark.
A little bit of saffron, like I'm just getting a little.
Yeah. I think that segues that kind of spiciness. It's not curried, but the pepper and spice
just hints
segues
of
to
it,
saffron.
I mean, I tell you what though, it is unmistakable Ottoman Empire.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to say that, but it's almost like Ottoman Empire light a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I'm not that's not to say that it's sort of lesser or
it's interesting
or weaker, but it's
talking about trying to be objective. So when I sprayed this the second or third time, and my wife said, "Oh, you sprayed something pooey."
Oh, really?
Yeah. So even though we haven't,
that's before he did spray them.
But we haven't talked about oud or animalic notes. But to me, this definitely doesn't have that funk of the Hindi oud in the first one. But there is still a bit. Here, I think the oud seems to kind of segue from the black pepper and nutmeg. It seems to come from that as opposed to being this thick animalic underpinning.
Yeah,
which you get in the first one.
There's still something a little troubling about it, though. I like a kind of spring rose fragrance to be quite light-hearted in a way, and quite sort of smiling. I still find there's something troubling and brooding going on behind that.
Oh yeah, I mean,
there's still this edge, isn't there?
This is not a lightweight fragrance.
No,
I mean, it is. I mean, having said that, in terms of performance, it definitely is less substantial in longevity and sillage than the first one.
Yeah.
And I remember talking about previous collections. He had mentioned he was using fewer synthetics and more naturals, and I wonder if generally this collection lacks the punch of the early ones because it's relying more on naturals rather than synthetics, which I know everybody always thinks, oh, naturals good, synthetics bad, but that's not necessarily what I think. I think good is good, bad is bad.
I can see what you mean, though. I think if it sort of does have a lot more naturals, is that is that kind of closing it and making it a slightly more private affair as a perfume goes?
I mean, interesting. I mean, but this doesn't feel closed. This feels quite bright and effervescent. And what I think the thing I miss most from this, as I said, with the original one, I never thought of it just as rose oud, because the florals in the mid of the original was not just about rose. There was also frangipani and jasmine, which gave you this really thick, juicy white floral mid, which just felt so plush and rich.
It was really opulent, wasn't it? I remember thinking.
We'll have a little.
It had so much going on. I'm still getting one or two very prominent.
Should we just have a little spray of the of one? This is one. Sparingly, because I mean, that's quite different, actually. Really quite different.
Yeah, I mean, almost unrecognisably so.
I mean,
far more boozy, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot more depth, especially having been smelling OE3 for a long time. I know people, I'm sure, will say, but your Ottoman Empire one is older and it's been able to age and macerate. But equally, I kind of feel if you release a fragrance, it should be ready to smell. You're presumably buying a fragrance to spray and enjoy.
I think my nose has slightly shut down on that one because I wouldn't, if you said that to me, sprayed that and said, what is that? I wouldn't recognise that as Ottoman Empire.
This one?
Yeah, just because my nose is so shot from smelling that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm getting a true reflection of it.
Oh, I mean, for me, this one is...
I'm getting a lot of brandy or something.
There is kind of booziness, but just immediately it's kind of darker and richer and kind of rounder, and I get funk.
Much darker, for sure.
I get funk from the start, and I'm almost not really aware of rose in the opening of this because there's this kind of much going on.
Yeah, it's a very different beast from number 3.
Yeah.
I'm getting like a big rose sherbet lemon thing going on.
Yeah, really compelling. Yeah, when you, I mean, and here, I understand.
Oh, it's opening up now.
Yeah, what you mean by kind of booziness, but I feel you get that from the start. Oh yeah, which is kind of funky and round.
It's very different actually.
Really different, yeah.
I hadn't anticipated. Wow. That's interesting, yeah.
Isn't it? I mean, 3, I think because we've just been smelling 3 lots and lots, we almost can't sense.
3 has blinded us slightly. But I mean, I wonder, because 3 doesn't smell a million miles away from 2.
Trevor, what's the thing?
I mean,
I think you will now feel...
Yeah. I mean, that's got far more layers to it, even just in that opening. You can smell the layers.
I'll put some 2 on there.
Yeah.
I'll keep one over here.
Dun, dun, dun. Now 2 smells closer to 1 than 3.
Yeah, wow, doesn't it? I think because
That's
3...
It's so interesting.
It really does.
My nose has gone bananas.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't worn 2 for ages. I wore 3 and 1 on my skin a lot, which is why I've been able to kind of talk about the comparison. But even smelling 2 now, it smells closer to 1, doesn't it? It doesn't have that bright rosiness and fizz of 3.
It sort of instantly drags you down under into the depths of the big Orientals.
But now smell 1.
Sorry to use that term, but whatever.
It's really oody. It's very oody straight away.
Oody chocolatey, which I hadn't picked up on before.
1 smells so, thick and rich.
Yeah. And I think 2 is Closer to 1 by quite a distance.
2 has the. Oh, go on, let me go. And when you smell 3 again, it almost smells just pepper and nutmeg, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I know because we're flitting between them, we're whacking our noses out of joint slightly, but still, it's a valid thing to compare them. I think.
I mean, and
I would do it again.
I know it's difficult to give these kind of first impressions on what seem like first impressions, but I did wear. The comments that I've given are based on multiple wearings on skin.
That's the thing.
Of 3 and 1.
You've tried them, haven't you? Yeah.
But
I think 2 and 1 are
2
siblings.
And 1 isn't it? 2 and 1.
3 is a sort of
what changed between 2 and 3? Is it just that they've been in the bottles longer?
COVID. No, I genuinely don't know whether it is just the process of sitting in the bottle. I mean, another thing which is always an interesting conversation is the use of these naturals and the fact that they are different every time. It's the old thing that Creed always goes on about with the batch variations. Oh, well, we use so many naturals that they all smell a little bit different, and it makes your perfume very individual. I think that's rubbish. I think they just have bad quality control, personally. Don't sue me, Creed, because you won't get anything.
But I think with Russian Adult, I think it definitely is a case of finite sources of oud and some other florals.
I think this is more a question of the variety of what's available. I have to say I really like them all, but I wouldn't buy number 3 at this moment in time myself.
I think
if I'd smelled numbers 1 and 2 and wanted the same.
Yeah, I think, and again, this is something we discussed before. If I bought Ottoman Empire III as it smelled now, on the experience I've had with it, and I didn't know who made it, I don't think I would be raving about it in the way that we have done about 1.
Yeah. I mean, I do really like it. I'm not quite so sure I would go as far as you in that, because I like it in its own terms, but when I put it next to the 1 and 2, I find it a struggle because of course these things are, on the one hand, they're variations on a theme, and they're not necessarily intended to be identical, but because of the way they set out in 5 seconds, I will always see it as, oh, here's my chance to get that thing I didn't get, and that's what would disappoint me.
Yeah, I think
if I thought this was my chance to have Ottoman Empire.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. When the reason this sold out in 4 minutes is because people wanted Ottoman Empire 1.
Yeah, and they think that they're, here's my third chance.
And I don't think it's. I mean, this is 1. This is really
completely different.
Yeah.
I'm getting like big, like funky cherry drops and all sorts of interesting things.
Yeah.
This has stayed in that lemony rose smoke thing, which I really do like. I really do like.
It's very, very different. It's just, it lacks that animalic, rich, round plushness of the first one.
Maybe he's paring it down and finding a more focused version of it that he.
Maybe he thinks people
he
don't
feels is
want
clearer and cleaner.
Such animalic fragrances.
Yeah. I'd be genuinely interested to know. I mean, what the thinking is behind it. Whether he's trying to just do the same thing with what's available.
Yeah.
Whether he feels it leaner and like a piece of music. You have a big Mahler symphony. You think, actually, I've reorchestrated it so that there isn't all of that big trombone section, and actually it's just whether that's the kind of thinking. I just don't have an insight into that. But I mean, there's, for me actually, increasingly there's no comparison.
Yep. I mean, you can hardly smell Russian musk now, can you? I think our noses have been so overwhelmed by all the Ottoman empires. Yeah, interesting. I mean, as I said, I think I will probably sell my Russian musk to. I'm not going to sell it at a stupid price. I'm going to sell it on a Facebook group at slightly less than I bought it for, because I've used it up. But
they're still great perfumes. We can't escape that. This is we're talking in a different level than we are with most of the stuff that's out there.
We are expecting to be wowed and blown away as we have experienced from Russian Adam before, and that's what we've come to expect.
It's like, I'm not into football especially, but I imagine this is what it's like if you go to watch Messi, and you'd be forgiving of, I don't know another footballer's name, of you'd be forgiving of someone that was playing for Plymouth Argyle on a Saturday. Messi, you want the fireworks, and you want to watch the best person in the world. So this is all in that context, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think there's a lot to love in these, but also we're kind of comparing genius to genius, but
that's what if you've
it's not a review either. This is
just
what we do in the pub, is us talking about perfume and chatting. Don't take what we say as some sort of gospel, because it's impressions and feelings and thoughts.
Yeah.
And questions, more importantly.
Yeah. We'd love to know
what's going on here.
Other people's opinions. I'm sure there'll be lots. But it's been interesting to see, like this Russian Musk, the fact that I bought it third hand. Obviously, two people have bought it before, expecting excitement, and hadn't got it. And
not two regular punters that just buy any perfume. Two people that are presumably fans of Areej.
I have to say, I don't think they did not give it. I don't think they gave it enough time, because I've had this for a few weeks now, and I still haven't made up my mind 100%.
Yeah.
Which is partly why we wanted to do a video which we took a little bit more time, because you can't go spray. I don't like it.
These things you've got to live with. And to be honest, you could have that Russian Musk for another year, and in a year's time be completely head over heels in love with it. And what does it do in the bottle? Is that thing going to change like a wine in the bottle? Who knows?
I don't know.
This is the beauty of perfume. We just don't know. Everything is always volatile and moving and changing. So it's exciting.
There we go. Lots of questions without necessarily a lot of answers. But if you do have any answers, let us know.
Yeah.
It's a house we are always excited to try,
absolutely.
and we will always be excited to try. But until next time,
bye.
Happy sniffing.